It's time for the whole truth. It's time for the whole truth. It is time to hear the whole truth. It did not come. The jury was not convinced, right? The jury was not convinced one way or the other. So more needs to be done. Can't replay the same thing because you're going to have the same result. Everyone deserves a verdict in all of this. The family of John O'Keefe, the defendant, the witnesses, the community deserve a verdict. So you got to get to the whole truth. So how do you get to the whole truth? What is the whole truth? What is the whole truth? And I know a lot of people are saying, you put the same evidence in there, you're likely going to have the same result. I mean, you in the chat rooms, you know the way this thing is divided up. And there are people who are dug in who will not come to the other side based upon the evidence we have now. So what needs to happen? What needs to happen here to get the whole truth? And this should be, now obviously, there are two sides to this, and I always explain the difference between a prosecutor and a defense attorney, okay? Prosecutor is married to the truth. That is what you should seek. That is what you attempt to prove inside of a courtroom. The defense has no allegiance to the truth under our system of justice. The allegiance to a defense attorney is to his client. Their case is not about proving anything. They don't need to prove the truth. They just need to demonstrate to the jury from their perspective that the other side cannot prove the case beyond any and all reasonable doubt. That's the legalese of it all, right? That's the way the system is set up, and the system works well. But this case, there are differences. There are allegations that she is factually innocent, meaning not presumed innocent, but factually innocent. I did not do it. Somebody else did it. They've been saying that from the beginning, right from the courthouse steps. So that's your case. Now, if the defense is telling us the truth, that she's factually innocent, okay? And the prosecution is telling us what they believe is the truth, that she did it, all right? Both sides are locked into their stories. The defense is not saying you can't prove it. They're saying, no, somebody else did it, and there's evidence of that. Well, here's the challenge that I'm throwing out to get to the whole truth, because I think you can get there in a much better fashion than was done at this trial. And it applies to either side. Whichever side is telling the truth should jump on this immediately. Immediately. And it's not about someone else's testimony. It's not, no. Let's get to something. Like, what was the evidence that was brought in this case that really both sides, aren't really disputing, right? There's some dispute on the clock, 3 minutes on a Waze app, but where you are and where your cell phone is at a particular time, that is something that's pretty much locked in, right? That's pretty much locked in every trial I cover. Rarely can you argue that the expert who has done the triangulation and all the things to place a phone in a certain place at a certain time, that's usually pretty strong evidence. Like, the one part of the evidence that is difficult to say, well, I don't believe you. Well, why don't you believe me? Now, the whole Google search interpretation of trying to get information off a phone. All right. I saw where the argument was there with the two experts. They didn't see eye to eye on that. That's fine. But how about tracking everybody that was there that night? Not just Karen and John, everybody. Where was everybody? Everybody's carrying a phone. Everybody in that house. You can start at midnight and take us till 6 o'clock in the morning. Where is everybody? Where is their phone? That hasn't been done. Hasn't been done. So if the prosecution is saying there's no funny business going on here, nothing to see here, then get all those records of everyone in the house that night, midnight until John O'Keefe is found. Show me where everyone is. Let me know if there's someone out on the front lawn at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, or if there isn't any evidence of that. Show me. Show me the evidence. You show me you can do it for KarenRead and John O'Keefe. Well, do it for everybody else. If there's no funny business going on, no cover up, nothing is happening here, then get the records. Get the records. And if you get those records and the defense tries to prevent you from bringing them into the trial, then we got something. Or vice versa. Wait a minute, the defense is allowed to subpoena things. How about the defense goes and gets the records and show us where everybody was from midnight until John O'Keefe is found? And if the prosecution tries to stop you from doing that, we got something here. See, this is a case where everyone knows that a lot of the unanswered questions, the gray area in this trial, I watched it, I covered it, and my head is spinning around trying to remember where everyone is and who could have been here, who could have been there. When did they exactly show up? Well, we don't know. Well, he texted at this time. Yeah, okay, he texted at this time. But what does his location and her location data say for everyone in the house, everyone who drove to the house, everyone who dropped someone off, picked someone up? Where were they? All night long. All night long. Where are they? A trial is the search for the truth. Couldn't get there in the first trial. Couldn't. 12 people did not come away from your presentation, Mr. Prosecutor and the defense team. They didn't come away all seeing and hearing the same thing. Why not? Maybe we need the whole truth. Maybe the whole truth. Now, what evidence can you get? What can't you get? Well, let's find out what you can and can't get. I've covered trials, okay? I've covered trials where killers were caught based upon cell phone data from burner phones, okay? So investigators had zero idea who the killers were. They started taking a look at the cell phone data. Well, what's bouncing off the towers? And they're looking at cell phone numbers. And they're tracking. Eventually, it takes a long time, a lot of work, but they get down to a few numbers. They figure out what the numbers are. They track where the numbers are connected to. Oh, they're connected to these we call them burner phones, but whatever they are. They're the phones that you just buy at the drugstore or whatever, right? We'll call them burner phones because they were used as burner phones in this case. And then they track where they were bought. And then they got surveillance video from the place and they found out where they were. And that's how they caught the killers. They had no idea who they were, but they could place those people there at the time. So even if the phone's been destroyed after the fact or the phone number's been changed after the fact, let's go back in time and see what information we can get. What can we get? What records can we get? I've seen it done. Just do it. Just do it. Now, you destroy a phone, a SIM card, some things might get destroyed, but I don't know if your location data necessarily gets destroyed. Does it? Do the towers, keep records of the numbers that are bing, bang, bouncing off? They caught the guys with the burner phones. They didn't even know who they were. And I think that's in more than one case, by the way. But one in particular I remember out of Florida. So where is everybody all night? Where are they going? Is there anyone over there? That Ford, we keep hearing about the Ford Edge. Oh, Ford Edge doesn't get there by itself. Someone's got to drive it. Who drove it? Whose car was it? Why don't we want to answer that question? Answer the question. Either show me the reasonable doubt defense or erase the reasonable doubt, Mr. Prosecutor. That's what has to be done. Otherwise, we're going to go through this whole routine again. Yeah, you could try to get a better expert. I'm sure the prosecution will try to get a better expert. They have to. But go get the evidence. Go get it. Now, under our system of justice, as I said in the beginning, the defense has no obligation to do any of this. No obligation. But you did sort of say that she's 100% innocent. So I'm basing this on what both sides are saying. I'm basing this on what the prosecution is saying and what the defense is saying. Put your money where your mouth is. If this is a case about innocence, then go out there, be aggressive. And if there are roadblocks in the way, make some noise inside the courtroom so everyone knows who's blocking you from getting that information. And Mr. Prosecutor, like if you're investigating a murder, start from scratch. Find out where everyone is. Do the investigation that wasn't done. Do the investigation that wasn't done so the next time you're in the courtroom, you're not left where you were this time. If what you're saying is the truth, that there's nothing to see here. Like, why isn't that going to be done? Why wouldn't that be done? We know where we are now because, prosecutors zoomed in on KarenRead. They didn't look anywhere else. We know that. That came out during the trial. It was blatantly obvious. Blatantly obvious. So you lost the case because the defense is arguing that's what you did. We didn't lose the case, but you didn't convince 12 people. So if you're going to do the trial again, why not try to do the rest of the investigation? Let's get it done. Should have started yesterday. Get it done. So the next time you're in court, you can say, let's get this stuff in. And if the defense objects, it's a little suspicious. Meanwhile, the defense, why don't you try? And if the prosecution objects, then, they don't want the truth to come out? Who doesn't want more evidence? Who doesn't want the truth in front of this jury? That's my question tonight. Who doesn't want it? Is it both sides are scared? You tell me why that can't be done. Why can't that be done? Do it. Start like from scratch with the investigation. Investigate everyone that was there that night. Like exactly where they were. From midnight until John O'Keefe is found. That'll speak volumes to me. Oh, wait a minute. I got another idea. I'm full of ideas. So, what was the one question that this jury had? The one request was they wanted to see the cert reports, right? So they had some questions, some question or some discussion at a minimum regarding the search team that was finding pieces of taillight. And we know the defense made a big deal, and they should have made a big deal, about the video from the Sally Port showing us that, there was a window of time where Proctor lied about the seizure or typoed, whichever one it is, the time of the seizure of the car. So they're building this window of time where Proctor could have planted taillight evidence. Okay, that's what they argued. It was clear to me through their cross-examination what they said to this jury, that they believe Proctor was in the Sally Port grabbing pieces of the taillight, maybe with the chief as well, the Canton chief. And then there were two people who couldn't be identified out there when the CERT team was there. Okay, if all that's happening, what on earth can we do? How could we how could we get to the bottom of that? Anyone have any suggestions? Anyone? Suggestions on how we can figure out all that? Huh? Oh, wait, you said Trooper Proctor has a telephone? A cell phone? Oh, oh. Why don't we find out where he was? Why don't we find out where Trooper Proctor was? Like, we got all the text messages back and forth. I get that. That was ugly. But how about where he was? Did he go from the Sally Port back to the crime scene? If he did, don't you think the jury should know? And if he didn't, don't you think the jury should know? Don't we all think the jury should know that? Wouldn't that be a better way to get to the truth? I mean, here we are now. We've had a whole trial, 9 weeks. It's a public trial. We all saw and heard the evidence. We know where some of the discrepancies are, some of the holes, etc. But this gets to the heart of it. This gets to the heart of the conspiracy. This is the crucial part of it is what is Trooper Proctor doing? From the time of the seizure of the SUV to the time that pieces of the taillight are being recovered. Shouldn't we know where he was? That's much better than, oh, he could have gotten there. He could have gotten there. Yeah, sure, he could have gotten there, but shouldn't we know if he was there or wasn't there? Or shouldn't we know at least where his phone was? Whether his phone was there or wasn't there? Because my guess is if you're going to text all that stuff on your phone, you're probably going to keep your phone with you whenever you're doing anything that you're doing, I would think. Like, can we track that? Is there any way to figure that out? How about what car was he driving? Was he driving a car with tracking information on it? I don't know. Do they put that on police vehicles? Could we know where he drove to? Could we figure that out? Should we figure that out for the next trial? Does the jury deserve it? And at the end of the day, every trial is a search for the truth. That's what the judge should want. That's what the prosecution should want. Now, the defense normally has no obligation to that, but they're also saying that's what they want. So is this what everyone wants? It's like a game of chicken here. So why not just kind of like rethink the retrial and reinvestigate the case to get the information that the new jury would likely have, which may allow a new jury to get to the truth, which is the whole purpose of all of this and ultimately what the O'Keefe family deserves. They deserve the truth about what happened to their brother, to their son, to their dad, right? I mean, isn't that the point of all this? This isn't a game, right? This isn't like a board game. This is supposed to be about exposing the truth. So instead of strategy and everything else, let's get into it. Like, which side doesn't want the truth to come out? Because I believe if you do those two things, you track where Trooper Proctor was on Sallyport Day, and you figure out where everybody else in the house was for 6 hours. There you go. We'll know a lot more in the second trial than we did in the first trial. And when I say we, I mean the jury. The jury. This isn't a normal case. This is not a normal case by any means. Like, time to do a little more. Like, prosecutors have to do a little more. Now, prosecution can get all this evidence, so they have it. And if it falls their way, they have it in their pocket. That may, and anytime the defense brings something up, boom, they can use it. On the other hand, If it pans out that there's people running out to the front yard, there's people driving around in a Ford Edge, if there's people scurrying around at strange hours, well, it is what it is. And I'll tell you, and I understand why the defense might be a little scared of that, right? Because they have the ethical obligation to their client, so it may or may not pan out for them. Only KarenRead knows. She's the only one who really knows for sure, or the people who actually did it. If she didn't do it, then the people actually did it. But from the defense, for defense attorneys, it's, yeah, it's kind of risky. This whole avenue is a little risky, but their whole case was risky because it was based upon innocence, not them proving it. They stood on the steps. She's innocent, factually innocent. That's what they've been saying over and over again. So I get it. I take them at their word. Take them at their word. Now, when it comes to truth and the prosecution, they're married. They are married. So there's nothing that should prevent the prosecution from getting more information. And I know there's rules of evidence, there's timelines, discovery, blah, 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 blah. But do it. Then go to court and try to use it if it's going to help you. Or do it, and if it doesn't help you, you got to let the other side have it as well. And that shouldn't strike fear into you, because as a prosecutor, it's not about winning. It's about make sure you get to the truth. And if the truth leads you to someone other than the person you charged, well, then you've got to drop the charges. That's just the way it works. You can't be locked into just winning. You got to be locked to the truth. The defense can be locked into winning, but they've said something else here. So I think the whole truth is much more obtainable than what we saw in the courtroom and the way it played out. And, we could talk about bringing in better experts to explain things. But at the end of the day, I know, dirty little secret, experts are experts. It's opinion. Experts are opinion. Like if cell records are cell records that are a little bit less susceptible to being spun or skewed one way or the other, then let's go with it. And I mean, everything that I've seen and heard for the last, I don't know how many years on court TV in murder trial after murder trial, it's about tracking people in their cell phones. And it's the type of evidence that people tend to not dispute. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let's find out where everyone was on the night that it happened. And then let's find out on Sallyport Day where Trooper Proctor was. Jury deserves it. Jury deserves it. All right, folks. By the way, we're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. Appreciate all your support. Thanks for joining. I'm going to be talking about this tonight, a little more depth and detail, bring in some expert guests, etc., to talk about how this could play out, how this plays out in Massachusetts, under the rules in Massachusetts, etc. That's 8:00 tonight on Court TV. In the meantime, before we run out of time, I want to see if I can not fall so behind in some of the comments and questions that everyone has. Thank you to Frankie Figs, Melly, and of course, Gen X for keeping law and order. And sorry for the delay. I was taking care of my insulin pump. You don't want anything to happen here on the live stream or on television tonight. So I always have to take care of that. No matter what's going on, if that's off, then nothing else really matters. There we go. So let's get to it. June. Hi, Vinny. I made a mistake last time without intention to make you older 10 years. I confused Menendez brothers trial and the staircase trial. Sorry. No problem, June. Yeah, staircase. I was on the staircase. I was there. Yeah. It was everywhere. It was splattered everywhere all over that staircase. There's no way someone fell down. And don't try to sell me on the owl. I'm not buying the owl on that one. Then we could do that at another live stream. Let's see. All right. So Sandy. So what is going on, Vinny? What is going on? What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on, Sandy. I want the whole truth. And I think it's there for the taking. It's there for the taking. The question is, which side is going to want to do it? Which side wants it? Which side is afraid of it? That's my question. That's my question. More information at the retrial. More information. I want to know where everyone was. Where were they? You know, if you can do it for John O'Keefe, you could do it for KarenRead, you can do it for everyone else. Ryan Nagel, Julie Nagel, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Colin Albert, Julie Albert. Chris Albert. I know he went home, but yeah, get it all done. Get it all done. Why can't you? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you is really the question. Why wouldn't you do that? Based upon what both sides are saying in this trial, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to put that in front of the jury? Beautiful messy ball. Someone left a giant dead turtle hanging on TB parent yard last night. Will you actually discuss the ugly of the anti-Karen movement? Okay, someone left a giant dead turtle hanging on, I guess, Turtle Boy's parents' yard last night. That's obviously, first of all, that's animal cruelty. Number one. Number two, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Heather Ashcroft. Hey, Vinny, always with the truth and scoop for us. Love your show from the UK. Thank you, Heather. This time of day, we get a lot of folks from the UK. Nice to hear from you. I'm going to have to head over to the UK. I think I'm going to go in, I think 26. I think it's 26. We'll get over to Wimbledon. All right. John, come on. That's on X. That's John on X. All right. Aladia, exactly. But they got rid of their phones, destroyed SIM cards. Hope you're taking care of your sugar. My sugar's good. Aladia, I don't know if it matters about the SIM cards. I don't know if that matters for tracking purposes. Like, that's going to get rid of text messages, everything else. I got an expert on tonight who's going to talk about that. But if you can track numbers of phones that you don't have, like you can track the whereabouts. If you can track a cell phone that you do not have custody of, right? Then does it matter that the SIM card was destroyed? I wouldn't think so. I'm going to bring in an expert on. I'm bringing on the guy who tracked down those records in the phone records of the lovers in Georgia. So, yeah, we'll figure that out. I think those records come from, like, your cell phone. The records here is everything you're doing on your phone, right? But your phone is communicating with cell towers. So I believe you can get the cell tower information of the phones that are interacting with the cell tower. So I think that's the way it happens. That's my understanding of it. That's the way I've heard it in the trials I've covered. But we'll see. We'll see if that can be done for the destroyed SIM cards. But let's get everybody else. We'll get everybody else too, by the way. And Diana Lang, most phones were rehomed, so no luck there. That's actually funny. That's very funny. That's a good sense of humor. I appreciate that. All right. McSpunky sending his best. to the mod ladies and the chat. Hey, Big Spunky. All right. Want some more coffee? You got it, Vinny. Connie, you go, Vinny. Okay, stick of butter. Trooper Proctor removed. Stick of butter. Yes, removed from the office. I don't think he's been fired from the Massachusetts State Police. The way the press release, I read it last night on the show. It seems though he's been removed as one of the in-house homicide detectives for the Norfolk County Prosecutor's Office, which is a prestigious position. He's been removed from there. What does that mean for cases he's worked on? I don't know. He's not working on cases in the future. But they said he was reassigned. So that'll certainly play. That'll certainly play in the next trial as well. Stephanie, can't see comments on here. All right, Steph, this is the way it's working. So I'm simulcasting on X where you're watching, YouTube and Facebook. So certain comments I'll pop up right here, but to see all the comments, you'd have to go back and forth between the different media. But you can see, I mean, most of them are coming from YouTube. There's a big discussion on YouTube. So if you want to go to YouTube, you'll see a lot more of the conversation. A lot more of the conversation. Okay. Just the worm. Vinny, can you answer my question? I don't know what that question is. Just the worm. I'm looking to see if I missed it up here somewhere. I'm trying to answer the worm. And yes, it's a genuine question. I'm still going backwards. Just the worm. Okay. Vinny, did you look into Kate Peter before platforming her? I don't have to platform someone. What I do is present both sides of the stories I cover. She is one of the people who was organizing a protest on one side. Obviously, we spent a lot of time covering the protest on the other side. So when you have protesters on both sides, there are some, I would call them ethical things, canons maybe, that we follow. So if we see people with signs on opposite sides of an issue, generally in the world of television and news, you speak to both sides. And that's exactly what was done on the show last night. So no, I didn't look into her. I knew that she was representing the other side, and whatever her background is, whatever brings her there, brings her there. Just like I did not look into the people that I platformed on the other side. I think it was, I don't remember her first name. I think, I can't believe I can't remember her first name. I know her last name was Italian, Lombardi. I had Lombardi on from one side. We had Kate Peter from the other side. And by doing that, for the folks who aren't in Canton or Dedham, Massachusetts, they get a flavor for what both sides are saying. So that's my genuine answer, just the worm. And I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair question. I think I gave you an honest, fair answer. And would I do it again? Yeah, I'd do it again. Because that's what I do in every story that I cover. That's what I do in every story I cover. Okay. Rachel, no ring videos from the Albert House, no pictures from the party. No pictures from the party, surprising. That's very surprising these days. I mean, I go to like parties. I even take a few. To me, it's location, location, location. And I would say there is more of an onus on the prosecutor, because the prosecutor who believes in his case wants to win his case. So if what the prosecutor is saying is true, the road to victory lies in doing the investigation. And if you do the investigation and things take a turn for the worse and what you're finding out and what you're uncovering, you should embrace it, because you embrace the truth. Prosecutors are married to the truth. So in your case, you're going to need more information. And again, this is really a challenge to both sides. A little more so on the prosecution, since they're the ones who bring the case, and they're the ones who are completely and totally ethically obligated to the truth. What the prosecution should want to do is put more information out there and just reinvestigate the case and the people by locating where they are. Tell the jury where everybody was. Is that going to help the jury, or is that going to hurt the jury in coming to a conclusion in the next trial? I think it would help. I know it would help. I know it would help. Because that's what's at issue in this case. Like, if the jury took the prosecution's evidence at its face, they would have come back and said guilty. But it's obvious that one or more, I think two or more is the real number, because the note kind of referenced plural. So we know there's plural seemingly on both sides of this split, whatever it is. But they did not accept your evidence as is. We know the public reaction. You can't be oblivious to that. So it's time for you to dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. And if one side puts tries to stop you from bringing it in front of the jury, then that, to me, that should speak volumes to the public. All right. All right. I don't know where am I? I'm back on Thunder Road with the Queen. Don't know how they get past JM saying she saw a JR car move 3 times between 1229 and 1250 when she's on OJO Wi-Fi at 1236. Right. And this is the stuff that is revealed in the trial, like where everyone is. If we know where KarenRead is, we should know where everybody else is. If we know where John O'Keefe is, we should know where everybody else is. Some great comments. Forgive me, I'm just reading some great comments. I just can't put them all up there. And Bob with a great question. How long do carriers keep the data? I'm trying to think back on how far back some of these cases go. And I don't have an answer for you. So I'm not sure what that is. I don't know, because I think the way things are these days, everyone pretty much does the investigation immediately. So the information is pretty close in time to the crime. If they're having trouble, they start grabbing all that data. But here, obviously, they didn't do it. Let's do it. I would have to think that there's enough time here. One second. I just have to respond to someone at work getting ready for the 8:00 show tonight. Mm-hmm. All right. Good question, though. Mm-hmm. Trisha Mulvaney with a super sticker. Thank you, Trish. Thank you so much. Okay. Julie, who owned the Ford Edge? If there's a Ford Edge there, let's find out about the Ford Edge. Mr. Prosecutor, let's find out. Was it there? Was it not there? The problem is we don't have a license plate, so we don't know what specific car we're talking about. If we had a license plate, it'd be a whole different story. But we don't have that. We don't have that. Okay. Brooklyn T, I thought 10 jurors found her guilty and only 2 were not willing. I don't know where that's come. Well, I saw some social media posts referencing where this came from. And if what I saw was correct, it has nothing to do with this jury. It was somebody else who served duty on another case and was explaining what happened in their case. And somebody else took that as what happened in this case. I have not heard from any of these jurors, at least not before the time I went on the stream here. So I think the 10-2 thing is not the truth at this point. I don't think that's the truth. I don't think any member of the jury has spoken. Here we go. Michael Krinsky. Thank you, Michael. 333 likes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got more than 4,200 right now on here. So boom, boom. Let's hit it. We got to hit it. Let's hit it. Thank you, Michael. And Lucinda, 5563. We need the truth, not the script. And the corrupt cops and family need to testify alone. It was Chris Alvin. The other one was Higgins. Like, they don't know. Well, here's the thing. The prosecutor, go get the records. Go get the records. Track down where everybody was. Track down where everybody was. You didn't convince the jury the first time. You want to convince them the second time? Erase the reasonable doubt. If that's what you believe it is, if you believe that nothing happened, then erase the reasonable doubt. Go get the records. Go get the records. Moles 10 versus Turtle 0. No broken bones, not hit by a car, beat up. Love the show. Thank you, Moles 10. All right, here's a question from Top Fire Industries. Can the prosecution change how he got hit? This is a really interesting question, right? Can a prosecutor in a retrial change his arguments? Can a prosecutor at a retrial change his arguments? Top Fire Industries, you are on top of it tonight. This is an important question. Now, I've seen through the years at Court TV, I've seen some extreme examples of prosecutors doing 180s. A case in Florida, I covered it when the trial happened. Then I covered it in my Sunday night show, Accomplice to Murder. There was a case involving the King brothers, 2 young kids there was a trial and they were accused of taking the life of their father, like them actually doing it. In front of a different jury, the same prosecutor argued that their accomplice actually did it. A grown man who was doing things with one of the boys that he should not have done. So in that case, it was permitted a prosecutor to have 2 different theories of who actually physically committed the crime. And I was really troubled by it. I'm really troubled by it. Because you cannot think that both are the truth. So as a prosecutor, you're arguing something that you don't believe is the truth. That's a problem. Wow, is that a problem for me? It wasn't a problem, though, down in Florida. So now the question is, can this prosecutor bring in a new expert with a new theory? The defense will make noise about it. Will the judge permit it? My guess is yeah. Will the jury know that there was another expert who had a different theory? No. Unless the defense subpoenaed him and made him testify to that. Whoa. That would be wild. Um, but I believe they can because I've seen it done. Now, Lisa Pilkington, I don't think it was split down the middle. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. But I think it's more than one on either side based upon the note. It was a very precisely written note. So, I mean, it was all the notes were very precise and very impressive. But the notes were clear that there was more than one on each side. Now, unless they were purposely misleading everyone with the note, then it was not 11-1. At a minimum, it's 10-2 or 2-10. Sherry brings up a big point here. So many were driving drunk that night, Vinny. Such a shame. Have reasonable doubt for sure. That's a very troubling part. And Mel talking about, and a lot of people talking about this, that Bev blocked everything. He's talking the judge blocked the defense from obtaining certain things. Well, make another motion, get another subpoena for the cell phone tower data. Get the cell phone tower data. And I'm going to talk to my a defense investigator tonight and how they've been able to obtain those records and what it takes. So a lot of this stuff I'm going to flush out tonight on the program at 8:00. Eladia Lopez, allegedly the prosecution stopped the defense attempts. Yeah, and I need a little more clarity on this. Was it to get their cell phones or cell tower records, right? Cell phones would be all the text messages that ended up coming out anyway, right? Through the federal investigation. The question is cell tower data. So you're not getting cell phones, but cell tower data. Carla Crosby, does the state trooper have to come back for the second trial? Well, I think the prosecution needs him because he found pieces of evidence and is in the middle of it all. If they don't call him, it'll look really bad. But it's just a subpoena. He has to be subpoenaed by one or both sides. If he's subpoenaed, then he has to testify. All right, Bob Bergman has a question. Is Court TV working for the DA's office? Bob, are you alleging a conspiracy or are you just being sarcastic? Interesting. All right. Let's see. Serene says they don't want the truth. Well, to me, that's the question, right? Who wants the truth? Who really wants the truth about where everyone was? Who wants the truth? Which side wants the truth? Okay, Z bringing up the infamous Alford plea. The Alford plea, where you go into court, you do not admit your guilt. You just concede that based upon the evidence the other side has, there's enough that you could be convicted for. So you enter an Alford plea, you don't admit your guilt, but you no longer proclaim your innocence or say you're not guilty. You just say, there's enough on the other side, and then there's a sentence for that, and it's usually like in the staircase, it was nothing. That way, the prosecution can save face, and the defense can save their freedom. Not out of the question at this point, but I don't think either side is going there, especially the prosecution. Susan, Commonwealth doesn't want the truth. Accept it, Vinny. Accept it. Cheryl says, yes, I believe they both are scared. What will happen here, folks? What will happen here? Phil, how's long until a new trial? My guess it'll be in the fall, but I'm not sure. They're having a conference in a few weeks later this month, and they're going to set the trial date. So that's what's going to happen there. Okay, now JM, I'm sure they sent Canton cops to plant the evidence. Okay. Let's track where the Canton police officers were. Why don't we do that? Why not? Just do it all. Anyone who had access. Find out who was there. Whose cell phone was near the crime scene at the time that they're finding all the pieces. Who's there? It just wasn't clear, and the prosecutor needs to make it clear, because now you know what this case is like. You know the way the public has reacted. You know the way that your 12 jurors reacted to the evidence. So now jump on it. Jump on it. You know the blanks you got to fill in if you believe in your case. Now, if you don't believe in your case, then you're not going to want to know. You're not going to want to know more. You're not going to want to let the jury know more. But if you believe in your case, you have to do it. You have to do it. Why wouldn't you do it? Lauren HB, can prosecutor use her media interview next time? That's a question for the judge. That's a question for the judge. You know, that's, first it has to be offered into evidence, and then it has to be admissible, because it is some level, it's hearsay. It's an out-of-court statement. What is the purpose of entering that out-of-court statement? You'd have to make the argument, make the legal argument. So, any piece of evidence, whether or not it can or cannot be used, is based upon the rules of evidence as interpreted by the judge who is in charge of the case. So here it would be Judge Cannoni would have to make a decision on whether or not that is admissible. First, it has to be proffered. First, they have to say, hey, we want to put this into evidence. They have to lay the foundation, and then they have to overcome any potential objections. Now, anything can be put into evidence if there's no objection. But if there's an objection, then the judge has to make the call. And that's the way it works for any piece of evidence. San DB. Defense asked for geofence of all phones. Proctor only got Android. Everyone had Apple phones. Well, there's a problem right there. There's a problem. Got to get it. Jet, many butts making calls and returning calls. All right, folks, please note the chat is on a 30-second slow mode, 30 seconds between posts, because it's out of control. Okay, Melly, I thought it'd be a different prosecutor. Usually it's the same prosecutor. You don't want to change prosecutors because then no one knows the case better than the person who tried it. And here you're going to be on a little bit of a time crunch because I think the judge will probably set this down for the fall. So if the judge sets this down for the fall, someone from the outside coming in trying to get up to speed could be a little difficult, especially in a case like this. Nancy Jo M. Vinny, the defense tried to get their phones during the pretrial hearings. The prosecution blocked it and the judge denied it. Denied it. Try again, number one. Number two, it should be the prosecution who wants to get it. It's the prosecution that should want to get it. June, what if Lally doesn't retry? Yannetti had said it was an accident. Lally needs experts, and to explain the scratches, nails are a pretty good explanation. And if you say Lally doesn't retry, do you mean a different prosecutor, or do you mean that they don't retry the case? They already issued a statement saying they're going to retry. They intend to retry the case, and I can't imagine. That any of this. I just can't imagine that any of this would be put into the lap of another prosecutor with such little time. You could add someone for bits and pieces of your case if you want. But, there's a long history of litigation and issues here. Plus, having lived through a trial, you just have a different feel for the way witnesses were and how it all played out. Okay, look at this. I saw the call put out. Please be kind or timeouts will be issued. You don't mess with the mods. Come on, guys. We can disagree. We refrain from the personal attacks, and we can disagree without being disagreeable. I think I've been very responsive to people who are, have genuine, serious questions for me. And I genuinely and seriously answer them. The truth is the truth. I just answer them with the truth. So, but there's no need to get personal here. No need to get personal here. Thank you, Gen X, Melly, and Frankie Figs. Keeping law and order here. All right, this is interesting from Kelly Marine. I want to address this. Wow, I'm shocked there are people that are taking up for the Commonwealth. I really have to wonder if you watched the same trial I did. Other than some reversing data from a vehicle, there was zero evidence. And here's the thing, Kelly, though. Here's what we have to remember. The people with the best seat in the House for this whole case, like in the jury box, like right next to every witness, some of them took up for the Commonwealth. So I wouldn't be shocked. I think the public reaction is similar. I don't know if the numbers are similar, but it's similar that there are people who genuinely saw the evidence different than neighbors, friends, fellow YouTubers. They genuinely saw and heard it differently, period. That actually happened. And it actually happened within the 12 people who were right next to every witness and watched and heard every piece of testimony and saw every exhibit. So if those people, and we believe more than one, took up for the Commonwealth, then it shouldn't be shocking that members of the public take up for the Commonwealth, and it works vice versa. It works both ways. So there shouldn't be such shock and disdain for people on the other side. because we saw 12 people who went in there and were sincere and wanted to get to a result and locked themselves in a room with one another for over 25 hours trying to agree. Could you imagine if we took the folks in our chat room and locked them in a room together for 25 hours? What would happen? But it happened. So I can understand how you could disagree with them. You might be surprised that people don't see it the way you see it. And they might be surprised that you don't see it the way they see it. That's where we are in this. That's where the jury was in this. There was no like, boom, we're done. Hey, this is it. It's over. It's not. We're still at ground zero. We're at Karen Read, presumed innocent, a prosecutor who is going forward, believes he can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, but didn't do it the first time. Now, statistically, just so you know, prosecutors have much more success than the defense does on retrials, historically, on court TV. Gen X, reminding everyone, we don't have membership turned on yet. Nope, we don't have membership yet. Whoa, this is interesting. We now have a Gen X chick. And we have our Gen X, the moderator. Are they related? I don't know. I don't think so. All right. Murder Candy Podcast with Avery. Will Proctor's testimony even be credible now that it's in the news about his removal and investigation? Well, that'll be part of his cross-examination, I believe. Well, it'll probably come up in direct anyway, but it'll be part and parcel of his testimony. And it becomes a problem, more of a problem for the prosecutor. All the more reason to do more investigation. Get the records. Get the records. All right, we're getting close to the witching hour. How far behind am I? Oh my goodness, I'm way behind. There's a lot of comments today. I'm way behind. I like to hit them all when I can. William with the super sticker, William McFalls. Thank you, William, from overseas. Big overseas crowd today. One more time from William. Sir William. Should we call him Sir William? I think we should call him Sir William. Kathy Guidry, do you think jurors would feel uneasy with making their decision knowing the law enforcement is involved? Meaning they would be intimidated from finding a finding of not guilty? I don't know. We've had mobsters found guilty, so only the jury can tell us. But if the jury does feel that, then they need to let the judge know. Aaron Wilcuts, I believe in you, Vinny. Thank you for entering the Karen Read Thunderdome. Come to the light side, Vinny. We've got food. Okay. Is it low carb, though? Is it low carb? Sir William, send Proctor down. Glasgow, Scotland. Sir William McFalds. All right. I'm zipping through. I am so far behind in these comments. Hi, Vinny. Happy 4th to you and yours from Amanda Stowicki. Thank you, Amanda. Happy 4th to everyone on both sides of the pond. I know it's still a little It's a little sore spot. We need only experts, but scientists. Proctor is the problem, but I would say to a jury that he didn't take the fifth. He took responsibility for his actions, and we can see he didn't write a book about framing her. All right. Well, we'll see how he holds up on the retrial. It's going to get a little uglier, if that's possible. Good luck to the Commonwealth in the retrial after the Proctor news, says Emily C. Yeah, it's a little problematic. It's a lot problematic. Sarah, Vinny, the letter from the jury could have been worded in a way as to not reveal the split. Clearly, the author was intelligent. Polls indicate 1 or 2 for guilty. Yeah. Well, that would be consistent with the polling, right? The public polling. But Sarah, you're right. I mean, definitely an intelligent jury, and the foreman very smart. Aladia, being that this has been all over the news, how would this affect jury selection? Well, it's the same question. Can you put aside anything you know about this and base your verdict solely and only on the evidence you hear in this courtroom? If the juror says yes, they can be permitted. So you're allowed to hear about the case. It's just you have to be willing to put it aside and base your verdict only on what you hear inside the courtroom. That is the legal test. Jackie M., if the Commonwealth does retry and there's a change of venue, will Lally even be able to be a prosecutor? Yeah. Change of venue, everybody moves. There are change of venues where the whole court staff also goes to the new venue. It depends how they work it. But I've seen cases like that where everyone from the bailiff to the stenographer to the court clerk, obviously to the judge, they all go to another venue. The other thing that can be done is you can go to another venue to get people and then bring them to Norfolk County and put them up in the Homewood Suites for 3 months. Oh, that would be fun. Jennifer Mayer, such an injustice Commonwealth didn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And yeah, many members of the jury agreed with you, but not all. Frankie, maybe someone random, others there hit him. Could have been. Let's find out who was there. Can we find out who was there? Discerning 8. Hi, Vinny. I'm LaShawn. It was great meeting you at CrimeCon. Great to meet you, Discerning 8. Will the state choose a lesser charge on a retrial? That's a possibility. I doubt it, but it's possible. They could just drop that first charge and stay away from all that. Although I think they like that evidence. Here's the thing. I think they like those voicemail messages. And if they drop the top count, it may not be admissible. It may not be admissible. So that's why I think they may keep the top charge so they can get that evidence in, which obviously Lally loved. Jennifer Mayer, lies, lies, and more lies bring down the corruption. April Diaz, this may sound stupid, but if there's a change of venue, is it a new judge or no? Change of venue, everybody moves, everybody goes. Sometimes, though, you can bring a jury to your jurisdiction as well. That happens. That's what happened in the trial down in Orlando, Florida from years ago. June, I want the truth. Who killed John? She lied where she dropped him off. She said she did it. So did she drop him off? I mean, in that TV interview, I heard her say she dropped him off at the driveway. And then she said she waited 10 minutes. So the question is, does she drop him at the driveway and then move up while she's waiting for him because people are pulling up behind her? I don't know. I do know, though, that the witnesses that drove past her only saw her in the car. Blue, just here to donate. Blue. Way you get it done, Blue. Frankie, how can she afford another trial in a civil suit? I don't know. But here's the question. Can you afford to not do it, right? Right. So when your life is on the line like this, like the rest of the freedom for the rest of your life is on the line, you don't budget. You don't like, oh, I can't tap into that account. You tap into every account and you ask friends and family. You have fun, whatever you need to do to get the money. You just have to do because it's your liberty that is on the line. Giselle Jimenez. Remember when the DA came out a few years ago telling everyone to basically shut up because we would see how guilty she was? Okay, I'm still waiting. That's That's actually, Giselle, that is actually a great comment. Um, because it wasn't obvious to this jury. It obviously wasn't obvious to the jury, and that's how we ended up where we ended up. Thank you, Giselle. Emily C., I know technically the Commonwealth have the upper hand in a retrial from past retrials, but Proctor being dismissed definitely is a help to the defense. Big time, big time, big time. Brass, 6073, Proctor's discipline record comes into the new trial along with any other officer charge. They will attempt to bring it all in. Absolutely. That's another call for the judge. June, they might be dirty, but they didn't frame her. Blue is back. John's family will get justice. The truth will come out. Hopefully, whatever the truth is. Michelle L., the panel of 3 lawyers on last night's show was very good. Peter Ellikin is my favorite. It was pointed out that it was a weak case because of weak evidence. Semolina 23. Vinny, can we talk about your guest commentator, Kevin Lanahan, who faked brain cancer for a GoFundMe scam? He avoids answering when asked. I have proof. I have no proof of this. I have no idea about it. You've made an allegation. I would bring it up with Kevin. I don't have a comment one way or the other. I know nothing about it. But thank you, Semolina. I appreciate the discussion. Sarah, can they even retry KarenRead? Because the verdict form was such a mess. They didn't say what they were hung on. Yes, they can retry her. The jury note is clear. The jury note is clear. The jury note is clear that they could not, that some people found evidence beyond a reasonable doubt and others did not. The note was good. The note was specific. Mom's huge feet on X. Will you address the controversy over your guest last night, Kate Peter, her blatant blah, blah, and blah, blah. You're getting a lot of backlash online as well as calls for a boycott. Oh, are you going to stop? Here's what I would say to Mom's huge feet on X. Do you or do you not believe in freedom of speech? Do you or do you not believe in freedom of speech? Do you or do you not believe in hearing both sides of a controversy? Do you or do you not want to know what the other side is saying so you can respond? See, here's a problem. And this trial has fallen into the trap that the world, not just our nation, but the world has fallen into when it comes to really the world of politics, right? You're either left or right. And if you're right, you only talk to other right people. And if you're left, you only talk to other left people. And you listen to each other in your bubbles. You never hear one another. You're totally working in separate worlds. And that's not the way it works. That's just not the way it works. Not in a trial. A trial is never in two separate bubbles. The bubbles intersect. Both sides have to hear one another. Both sides question one another. And that is the model for my show and what I do. How on earth could I do a show about legal controversies and give you one side of the story? I've never done that. Even in cases where the evidence is overwhelming on one side. Take the Madeline Soto case. I will report and talk about every potential defense that Stephen Stearns can bring up in that case. I absolutely will. That's my job. That's also the nature of a trial. Could you imagine a trial where only one side gets to speak? Oh, you know what that's called? That's called the grand jury. And most defense attorneys don't like the grand jury because only one side gets to speak. And the reason that a grand jury does not become a conviction is because only one side is speaking without cross-examination. Like what you're saying about not wanting to hear the other side, to me, that's like, doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me. And I understand there might be some shows or some people that's how you want to talk about the case or hear about the case. That's fine. That's fine. And there may be some that do that, that just look at it from one perspective. That's not me. That's not me. And this is in cases that are overwhelming, like overwhelming evidence. Like the case out in Idaho. Obviously, we're going to argue everything, despite the fact that his DNA is on a knife sheath that is found at the crime scene in a case it's a stabbing. Like, yeah, despite that, we're going to talk about all the defenses and all the possibilities and all the arguments that are being made on both sides. Of course I will. Of course I will. Love the First Amendment. Should the jury be sequestered next trial, in your opinion? And unfortunately, in our system of justice, they look at the price tag. So sequestration has a definite price tag, right? It's expensive, especially in a 3-month trial. Okay, let's put that aside. Number two, you've got to find a jury that can be sequestered. Like you found a jury here that could dedicate the time, which was amazing sacrifice by them. But then they've got to be cut off from family and friends for 3 months. I think if you do sequester a jury, then you better work a little quicker, meaning, long days, full days every day. And like Judge Belvin Perry, sometimes you meet on the weekends. Everybody's got to work harder. If you're going to take citizens and lock them up, right, and disrupt their lives for 3 months, then everyone else has to work a lot harder, and everyone else has to make a lot more sacrifices as well. I will say this too. If you want to know about sequestered juries, from my experience in these big cases, much more likely to come back not guilty. Sequestered juries. Believe it or not, you might think the other way, but no, that's the way it's worked out for the most part. For the most part, not exclusively. Solomon Grundy, why haven't anyone overruled on this case when these facts state it wasn't a car? That was expert opinion. Expert opinion. Expert opinion is like any other witness. It can be believed or not believed. It can be accepted or rejected by the jury. So it's clear that some members of the jury rejected that expert testimony from the witnesses called by the defense. Nicolina 777, Proctor and the other investigators need to be placed on a Brady Giglio list. Zero credibility. And you know that, Vinny. Giglio. Mm-hmm. Well, Proctor's got his issues right now. I mean, he's lost his prestigious position that he held. Thank you, Paula Crawford. Thank you. All right, I'm catching up. I was like 30 minutes behind. Solomon's back. All the missing video. Really? There's more proof she was framed than killed him. And I agree. Kevin's a con artist, Vinny. I don't know if Kevin's a con artist. I have no idea. I've seen no evidence of it. I know people have problems with everybody. There's people who don't like Turtle Boy. Like, it is what it is. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. Some people don't like Nick Rocco. I don't know how you couldn't like Nick Rocco. Love you, Vinny, or live you, Vinny. Thank you, June. I will just say this: the people I've had on my show have disagreed in a way that was not personal and disagreeable. So we had like intelligent discussions on the show, intelligent discussions about the evidence, intelligent discussions about how the trial played out. And I think from my perspective, the viewers got a much better view of the case and an inside look at the case. You not only get to see the trial and hear the witnesses and the testimony and see the evidence, but then you get to hear people who are advocating for either side and understand what they're saying and bringing you some additional information that might not have been clear from the way it was presented in the courtroom. That's what we did. And we let them do the debate live on the air for you. And the debate they were having on the air is likely close to the debate that was happening in the jury room, which I can't show you, right? Cameras don't go inside the jury room. So what can I do on my show to replicate that? Well, I can bring in two people who know all the facts and who can debate about it live, and who I can ask questions, and I can ask tough questions of both of them, and they'll answer them. And that's what happened. I don't know. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Some people just want to hear one side, and that's fine. That's not this show. Stanford Mom 2025. How about that, Stanford? Stanford Mom. All right. Back in the day, Vinny, it was the medical examiners for me. By the way, you do such a great job. I love that you do here. Your kindness and knowledge is unmatched. Thank you, Stanford Mom. Go Card, beat Cal. Some inside Stanford talk there. All right, Jen. Sorry I'm late. Vinny, darn nursing job keeps getting in the way. Free Karen Read. Jen, good news. You're not as late as you would have been if I didn't have to take care of my insulin pump. So I was a little late myself. So thank you for joining us, Jen. Eladia, how handsome Vinny is. Glitchy super chat. Thank you, Eladia. Action bends. I appreciate hearing from both sides, but once a fact is disproven in court, like the KR going 25-24 in reverse, can you call them on it? Can you call them on it? All right. Explain to me how that was disproven. It could have been questioned, but disproven. 24 in reverse and struck him. Like, again, I challenge things that don't make sense to me, or things that are in conflict with other evidence or other testimony. I point out all the time on my show. Thank you, Action. Semolina 23. Do you think the protesting outside went too far, passing Johnny Depp's and Michael Jackson's level of circus? No, this is freedom of speech. This is not a circus. I don't think it's a circus. If people cannot stand outside a government building and express their thoughts about what's happening inside a government building, then where on earth can they? Right? So I don't think it went too far. I think there was no violence. There was some arguing at some point, but it is what it is. If people, here's the problem too, is that it got moved to that tiny courtroom, so people couldn't even go in. To me, that's the bigger problem. The bigger problem wasn't the protesting outside, but it was the lack of public access inside, right? It was extremely limited. All right. We're almost done here. Charlie Raven, LawTube has hooked me. I found my people. Great to see you, Charlie Raven. But that looks like a cardinal. That does not look like a raven. Thank you, Charlie. Kathy Gidry, always tell it like it is, Vinny. I try from my perspective. Lindsay Riccardi, love your content and insights. Plus, you remind me of my uncles. I'm assuming you're a paisano. Yes, I am. What happens to witnesses that have obviously perjured themselves? Firefighter, Caitlin McGirt. I don't know if I've ever seen someone prosecuted for perjury after a trial. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I'm trying to think, like one of our trials where people testify, one side wins, one side loses. Somebody said something that the jury didn't believe. But generally prosecutors don't necessarily do that. But that's the only thing you have. Like the prosecutor would have to bring charges for perjury. They are not going to do that for witnesses that they called and that they believed. So I don't think anything's going to happen. I think that's the truth about what's not going to happen here. I want to speak, but they're insulting me. They had insulted me when I thought not guilty just because I said I didn't like her. Love you, Vinny. Yeah, don't get personal. You know, people disagree. That's why we have trials, because people don't agree. Carl Farrington, Miranda warning. Would opinions change if they knew she refused to talk to Stades at her dad's house? Can't be brought up at court. Yeah, exactly, right? So not speaking, a defendant not speaking cannot be used against them. Yeah, that's interesting, right? If she refused to speak to Stades at her dad's house, would people's opinions of this change? Or I would say likely the opinions wouldn't change because they would say that they believe she was, a target at that point. Oh, I got to go. I am out of time. Solomon, thank you so much, Solomon. Am I all the way caught up? Micro Kimmy, thank you so much. And the Mike D Experience, love your show. Thank you. And I'm done. I gotta get to work. Show tonight, 8:00. Don't miss it. We're gonna get into all this stuff. I'll bring in my experts. I'll answer some of the questions that I couldn't answer tonight. I got the nation's #1 defense investigator. I've got great attorneys. I've got everything tonight, 8:00, Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Thank you to Melly, Frankie Figs, and Gen X. Have a great night. Please don't forget to hug the kids.